Morning all, or afternoon, or whenever you're watching this really. In 2029 you could be watching this, I suppose, even though it's 2025 I'm putting it up. And that's kind of like part of the thing about these videos, isn't it? You don't know how long they'll last and where they'll go. So just a little bit of a chat to camera this morning, because I kind of thought it might be quite a nice thing or an interesting thing to discuss farming influencers and the kind of almost meteoric big rise in farming influence, because I can't pronounce the word that I meant to be saying. You know what I meant. The rise in farming influencers. What sort of encouraged me to sort of do this video was I was looking at something the other day, and Gareth and James was on TV talking outside the Labour Party conference, and I thought, blimey, hasn't farming come a long way when it wasn't that long ago there weren't farmers that could take up a media position unless you were someone already in the farming world, and the farming world like that in the media was probably NFU or Country File presenter really. There wasn't a lot of farmers out there who were representing the farming community that people could access, if you know what I mean. And I kind of find it interesting how things have changed since I started YouTubing, because, and I've got to blow my own trumpet here, but it is true, I was one of the very first farming YouTubers. So some of you have been with me a long time might know that. And it is an interesting story how my role in YouTubing, influencing if you like, started and where it's changed in the time I've been doing it. So I had a YouTube channel in 2007. The very first video I put on was this little clip of us oyster tasting in Falmouth. Very young wife there, when I was first going out there actually, or we've been going out a 1 year I think. And then the very first, here's my wife. Talk me through what you've got and what you're about to do.
I've got 6 of the finest native oysters, dredged from the River Fell.
What do these cost you?
£5 for 6.
£5 for 6, and you're looking forward to this?
I look forward to it every year. A mix of Tabasco and lemon.
It does look like giant bogies,
The optimum combination.
The money shot.
What do you think, Giles? The money shot.
Pull your face.
Even that jump there says would you like some Ali? I think the general view here is. And the very first farming video I put on was this one actually. This is February 2009. So those were little clips I was filming. I was actually doing it like everyone else on a little pocket digital camera. Here's the digital camera. The batteries, I don't use this anymore. No one uses digital cameras anymore, do they? But you've got to remember, in this era, there weren't smartphones. I never had a smartphone until 2013, and I don't think many other people did. And it changed how that smartphone changed how people accessed YouTube and also how they created content. But back in 2009, 2010, it was digital cameras like that. Or, in my case, I switched to this little camcorder. This is my spare one. I still use the camcorder because I'm old school, but no one else is doing that. I like that. It's very old-fashioned though. These don't, they don't make camcorders anymore, Sony. If I have to get replacement, I get it off eBay second-hand. Anyway, so I started YouTubing really because of this book, right? That came out in 2010, A Year on a Dairy Farm by me, and it was a digital photographs of the farm, taken on that little Sony camera. 2009, I thought I'd do a book. Well, I didn't realise I was going to do a book, but long story short, I got a book published called A Year on a Dairy Farm. Anyway, how I really started on YouTubing, even though I tinkered a little bit, was actually I thought I could do a DVD version of the book. So, for a year I carried a camcorder like this, and I started uploading basically videos of the farm onto YouTube, because I thought originally I was going to do a DVD, because we are in the era of before downloading, before streaming and stuff like that. We're in the DVD era, so this is where it was. And I started in 2010, about 2010, 11, sort of regularly uploading videos to YouTube. You know, very short videos, because that was what people thought, well, that's what I thought people wanted then. And that's changed since I started uploading, because now people do more of a long storyboard, whereas when I was doing it, it was people just putting 2-minute clips on. And the interesting thing is, when I started YouTubing, there wasn't really anyone else, or I don't remember really anyone else. There was, I can't remember the name of a chap who would put up some sort of little clips, mostly photographs I think I'd look at. But there wasn't anyone else. I think Grassmen were doing some videos then. They were early pioneers. But there wasn't, I mean, Tom Pemberton was still at Cirencester College. People like Ollie Blogs, even Gareth Wyn Jones, you know, Hey Team TV, or I can just roll on the names. They weren't doing YouTube. They didn't exist. So I had no one really to copy. But also, for my luck, if you like, I didn't have any competition. There was just me, and there were a few others, I'm sure. I can't take credit of being the very first one. I'm sure there were other ones apart from Grassman and me, but there weren't many of us. So if you typed into YouTube looking for farm videos, I was very lucky. People would find me. And in fact, I got spotted by Google, who own YouTube, and they came to me. They actually offered me one-to-one mentoring, and they told me, this is really funny, they did a video, they used to, because again, before Zoom, we did some phone calls. It must have been early 2012, 13, maybe 14, around that era. They said to me, turn your camera on yourself, Rich. Film yourself, because people like to speak to or see the person behind the camera. And that's really interesting, because I wasn't doing that. And I didn't have anyone to copy either. So I did turn the camera on myself. And in fact, I got a video somewhere of me thanking people because I had 500 followers. I think if I can find it, I'll put it up. Hi there, if you're watching this, I guess you've found my YouTube channel, The Funky Farmer, and maybe you've seen some of the videos that I've done on it. Well, I thought, as I've got over 500 subscribers on the channel now, I thought I'd sort of say hello, really. So yeah, so I progressed from 500 followers. I think they said at one point that the Google people said, we reckon you can get to 20,000. Well, I did in fact hit 100,000 followers in 2019, and I think I can be honest and say that I was the first YouTubing farmer in the UK to reach 100,000 followers. On my tail then was Tom Pemberton. He was just behind me. I think he had something like 80,000. And I said to my wife at the time, this guy's going to overtake me, I'm sure, because his following was going through the roof. But what's really nice about Tom is, and I'm quite proud of this clip, and he didn't have to say this, but he said when I went to see him, and I got it on video, if it hadn't been for The Funky Farmer, there wouldn't be a Tom Pemberton. And here's the clip of Tom saying that, which is more than generous of him, because I'm sure he would have been doing what he was doing if I hadn't been around. Anyway, there you go, there's the clip.
A big thing as well, so you see this man behind us, if he didn't start, I probably wouldn't have started. So that's a big thing. The funky farmer. If there's no funky farmer, there'd probably be no Tom Pemberton.
No, I'm sure there would have been Tom.
100%.
Yeah, well, it was good. It was a good inspiration for you.
100%.
It's nice to know you watched it. I didn't.
Well, I did as well.
I think I started watching it 25 to 30,000. I was there.
I mean, I tell you what, this is the interesting thing about doing vlogging and all this stuff. You do not know where you reach, do you?
No.
Anyway, so you got people like Tom Pemberton who were coming up in about late 20 teens. Tom Pemberton was coming on board, and but there were, you know, again, still not that many of us. And Tom Pemberton overtook me. I can't remember when, but it's not a competition anyway. But what really changed around this time, about the late sort of 2018, 19, is the smartphone. And that was really interesting because that changed how people could watch the YouTube videos. Instead of having to switch on a computer to watch them, people could watch them anywhere. You know, before that, it was quite a commitment to watch a YouTube video. You had to sit in front of your PC. Well, young kids and stuff aren't going to do that, or it's a lot more hassle than they want to bother with most of the time. But once you've got a smartphone, you can watch it somewhere, but also you can create content. And that's when I think things really changed, probably about 2020. I think COVID was a major deal breaker. A lot of younger kids had started growing up with people like myself and Tom Pemberton on YouTube and watched them on their smartphones and thought, I can do that. I could do that. And so they started. And the world of influencing farmers really took off in probably the early 2020s, I think. I think Ollie Blogs started around that time. Certainly a lot of the, you know, established people who are now out there now really started doing YouTubing and TikToking and everything that goes with it. But I also noticed a massive difference in kind of how the world was changing with farming, because up until this point, like I said, there weren't many of us to do things, but we weren't really recognised and we weren't well known. I noticed a big difference for myself about 2020 when I started going, or just after COVID, I started going to places and started being recognised. And now we have, in the kind of 2025 era, you know, I think it started from about 2020 to 25 now, where we now have a considerable number of well-known farming YouTubers who now make appearances. This is really odd, really, because it wasn't a thing like this. You know, the meet and greet thing didn't exist. Farmer turned up at Llama or anyone? There wasn't any farmers to meet apart from the reps on the stand or the bloke you knew down the road who was also at the show. Now we've got the rise of the influencer farmer who is everywhere. You know, most shows will have an influencer as a guest. They'll have, promoting a product, meet and greet. I was on the Massey stand at Llama, and that's become a kind of norm now. And it's incredible how that has changed. Some influencer farmers have gone on further and now have professional representation. They have a management. I don't have that. I deliberately stopped where I am. There was a point where I've become as big as I want to be, if you know what I mean. I've got quite a following, but I was approached by a management company a couple of times, actually saying to represent me. But I realised then I had to do something different if I wanted to be part of that world. I had to step away from the farm and spend more time away. If you want to be a next level YouTubing farmer, say like Ollie Blogs and Gareth Wyn Jones and stuff, you then have to probably employ someone on the farm. You also then have to be away from your farm and your family life, and something's got to give. You know, you give up the time on the farm, you're away there. You earn more money like that if you like, but you then become separate from the farm, and I can't do that. I'm not going to do that because I want to see my kids. I don't want that level of interaction with people. I don't want to commit to something where I feel like I'm obliged to be at things or to sell things. So I kind of take it as a bit more easy. If stuff comes along, I might take it if people ring me up and say, would you do this? But I'm not under any management contract. The other thing as well, it's really quite funny. Someone said to me a while ago, oh, you get someone to do your social media, don't you? Someone puts the stuff on Facebook for you. No, they don't. I do that myself. But I didn't realise that there are some influencers who actually pay people to do the post for them, because again, if they're trying to run a farm and do the kind of guest appearance, not saying they all do that, but I know there are some that do that, where they pay people to do their social medias for them because they can't cope with it all themselves. And that is the funny thing about it. Once you become a certain star, if you like, you're pulled in all directions. You know, I don't begrudge them doing that. That's up to them. It's just not for me. But I say that this most sincerely. It is a blooming good thing that we've got farmer represented on all levels now, with influencing or not influencing, just being out there on TikTok or YouTube, because we have now become accessible to the public more so than ever at any time in history. Because really, up until very, very recently, and I say that in the last probably 5 to 10 years, certainly in the last 5 years, farmers now have a voice that they never had before. Like you watching this video, there was no way to communicate with farmers. You saw farmers, if you weren't from a farming background, you saw farmers in a field or a tractor. The only way you could really access them was to actually go and speak to them in the field, which is quite intimidating, I'm assured. Or you watch Country File, or what was the Farming Today programme or something like that on the radio. But those programmes weren't necessarily for you. What's changed now, and Clarkson has had a big effect on that, is that people can engage with farming. They can watch YouTube farmers, and they can see little family farmers that wouldn't. Country File aren't going to come here, are they? What have I got to offer them? I've got an breast parlour, I've got about 130 cattle. I don't do it. There's nothing here that's like special or warrants a visit from Country File. It's just not. I'm just a normal guy with a little farm, like millions of blooming or thousands of farmers around the country. But we can all have our little voice out there. It's brilliant. It really is brilliant. And I mean that from the little guy, the little people like my son, the equivalent of my son, who's like 10 years old and got a few ducks or something like that. He can do a little YouTube channel or a TikTok, and he can put it out there and people can see it. It's brilliant. And then we can go on up to the different levels. We can go to the people that are there just to try and sell some of their beef or their honey or something, because you can advertise, or you can stick it up on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or Instagram and show you've got a pork box, or you've got a lamb box for sale, or you've got jars of honey for sale, and people can come to you through that. And then there's people like me who've become maybe a face for farming in a small way, you know. And if you look at us all around the country, it's brilliant, because we've got, you know, you've got Joe Seals up north, you've got Hey Team TV down south. They're involved with the, you know, the Farmers for Action. You've got Gareth Wyn Jones over in Wales. You've got Tom Pemberton. You know, I could go on forever. You've got people all representing all parts of the countryside, all doing their little bit, and it's a lovely jigsaw of interaction. You find your own person you gel with and you watch them, and then we have the bigger YouTubing farmers like Gareth Wyn Jones, or we have Jeremy Clarkson, who can get really into the media stream and are part of that culture, and will get contacted by the media regularly to talk about, interview, you know, what do they think about stuff, and they put it across to the public because they're accessible, and they're also a familiar face, in some ways a friend on the internet. So yeah, I don't know what you think about what we all do. As far as I can see, I haven't met, do you know what's really nice about it, right? I've met everyone doing their own thing, some represented by agents, some doing their own thing, you know, and some little people that are just having a go and putting 2 videos out in 6 months. And without a doubt, all of them have been really decent people. I haven't, you know, I've bumped into a few well-known YouTubers. I can't say I'm friends with them, but they're kind of acquaintances through the equivalent of what we do. But, you know, without a doubt, they're all lovely. Joe Seals rings me up quite a lot. What a lovely chap he is. I have a lovely chat with him every now and then. He got some, and do you know what? He got some. I just mentioned this. He got some criticism the other day because they put a headline out there. One of the Farming UK, I think it was, put a headline out. Farmer helps number 10 in search for Christmas tree. And I read some of the comments, and they were shocking, because if you'd read the article, what he'd done, he was part of a competition to judge a Christmas tree that was going to number 10. He wasn't really helping number 10. That judging competition was going to go on anywhere. He just happened to be the farmer that was judging the Christmas tree. And he isn't that sort of bloke. I'm sure he hates the bloody government the same as the rest of us. And I thought it was unfair to pick on him. But that's what comes with social media. There is a bit of a backlash sometimes. I'm sure some people hate me. But you have to accept that if you put yourself up there in a public place. But Joe Seals didn't deserve that criticism because he isn't that sort of bloke. He ain't in the pocket of the Labour Party like any of us. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on about that. Anyway, I've babbled on enough now, but I thought I'd just put this sort of video up because I have, without blowing my own trumpet, I was one of the first ones to be involved with social media and farming. And I've really enjoyed the ride that I've been on. I never thought I'd end up on Farming Today or doing local radio or doing a bit of TV every now and then, or, having the audience I've got. And, when the camera goes off, 99% of the time, I'm here covered in cow muck, swearing, doing stuff that isn't really very interesting and just being the normal Joe Blogs farmer. I'm no special bloke. Same as all the other farmers that have got following and stuff. We're all out here doing our thing, but we're just followed by people on the internet or whatever. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I've got to go back and do some proper work. Might have a shave at some point if my wife complains. But I'm still the smelly old guy that I was in 2010. I'm just doing a bit more stuff. Anyway, crack on. See you soon.